sixth graders, welcome to our Wednesday Asynchronous Independent Learning Day. I'm glad you're here. Let's go ahead and get started. So today our agenda is we are going to kind of talk about what are learning targets, what's our target for today. Then you're going to have a pre-assessment to do. Then I'm going to ask you to do some vocab work. And then you're going to assess yourself on where you are on our learning target. So our learning target for today is I can define matter, molecule, and atom. So what that means is by the end of the lesson today, I want you to be able to have a definition in your head of what is matter, what is a molecule, and what is an atom. I think I've told you guys numerous times, and I'm going to keep telling you for about another 2 weeks here. Learning targets in my class are super, super important. They kind of help you focus in on what do you really need to know by the end of the class period or the lesson. And today's is I can define matter, molecules, and atoms. So by the end of this lesson, I would expect you to have a definition of matter, molecules, and atoms. In our unit, we're in the matter unit. This unit will take us until about November, but in our unit, we are going to have several targets. These are the targets that we're going to have in this unit. We're going to have our first one that we're working on today. I can define matter, atoms, and molecules. And then on Thursday or Friday and next week, we're going to move into the next one. I can model how molecules are arranged in solid, liquids, and gases. And then we're going to explain how heating and cooling affects the motion of molecules in gas, liquids, and solids. We're going to describe the different types of phase changes. And then we're going to model how energy is transferred between molecules during phase changes. And finally, you're going to develop a model of a water molecule. Now that all might have sounded like gibberish to you, and that's okay because I haven't taught it yet. I'm going to ask that right now what you guys do is you're going to pause the video in a minute, and you're going to go into the Wednesday folder and open up the unit pre-assessment. That's number 2, our unit pre-assessment. And what this pre-assessment is it's not for a grade. It's my way of knowing kind of what you already know before I teach, so I'm not boring you for the next 6 weeks. So what you're going to do is click on it. It's a form. It's going to have all the targets for the unit listed there, and it's going to ask you to rate yourself on a 1 to a 4 based on how you feel about the target. So a 1 means you're just getting started. You don't understand it at all. You have lots of questions. You don't understand what the target means, and you're not really sure. So if you have no idea, you're going to put a 1. And that's where I kind of expect everyone to be. So it's totally okay on the pre-assessment to put a 1 down. A 2 means you have some knowledge. You might know what it's asking, but you still have a lot of questions about it. So you might be a 2. A 3 means you know the information pretty well, that you almost get every question right, that you could kind of go through the target and you have a really good understanding. And a 4 means you know it so well you could teach the class. Like you are a pro at it. So I want you to go do that pre-assessment. And you're going to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 4. Again, I'm expecting everyone to be at like a 1. So it's totally okay to put 1s down. It's a pre-assessment. It's not for a grade. It's just where are you before we start teaching. So these are the learning targets it's going to ask you to do. And you find the pre-assessment under the Wednesday folder. Go ahead and pause this video. And once you finish that pre-assessment, come on back and we'll finish up our lesson for the day. Okay, so now you have completed your pre-assessment. What I'd like you to do now is if you picked up the school supplies, or if you have one, you have a notebook for science. And I'd like you to pull out that notebook now. If you don't have a notebook, that's okay. Just grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and we're going to set up our very first notebook page, which is going to be a vocab page. So go grab your science notebook and a writing utensil or paper, and then come on back to this video. All right, so now you have your book and your paper in front of you. I would like you to open up your notebook, go to the first page, and title that page, Matter Unit Vocab. So your title should look like this, Matter Unit Vocab. And then I would like you to draw a line down the page, It can be about in half or so. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be perfect. And on the left side, you're going to write vocab term. And on the right side, you're going to write picture. And as we move through this lesson, you'll add the vocab term and the definition to this side of the page. And then you'll draw me a picture of what that looks like to you. So again, as we move through this unit, you're going to write the vocab term and definition here and a picture of the vocab word here. All right, our first vocab term is matter. So write down the word matter and then write down this definition. Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. It's anything that weighs something and that takes up some space. And it's made of very tiny particles called atoms and molecules. So your definition for matter is anything that has mass and takes up space and is made up of very tiny particles called atoms and molecules. So write down this definition and then draw a picture on the right-hand side of your paper of some type of matter. Feel free to pause this video so that you can do that. Okay, so now you should have your picture and your definition of matter. The next term we're going to do is atoms. What are atoms? So write down the word atoms and then write down this definition. Atoms are super tiny particles that make up matter. Atoms are the super tiny particles that make up matter. Go ahead and draw a picture of what you think an atom looks like, and then move on to the next term. And our final term for today is molecules. So what are molecules? Molecules are just two or more atoms that are attached to each other. So molecules are two or more atoms attached to each other. So far, we have a definition of matter. Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. It's made up of atoms and molecules. Atoms are the smallest particles of matter, and molecules are just two or more atoms attached to each other. All right, awesome. We're going to watch this video together. This is going to talk about what is matter, and then it's going to go a little bit into the different states of matter that we're going to talk about on Thursday or Friday. Oops.
Hey, what's matter? No, not what's the matter. Obviously, since you're here with me, you're pretty awesome at the moment. You might have heard that everything is made of matter, and that's true. You, soccer balls, iPads, even your pet Fluffy, all made of matter. So that's interesting. But what is matter exactly? The scientific answer is matter is anything that has weight and takes up space. You already know about weight, right? That's just how heavy something is. Like if you've ever been to a doctor's office, the first thing they do is have you stand on the scale so they can measure how much you weigh. As for taking up space, another way of thinking about it is that all matter has volume. It simply fills the area it's in. When you pour water into a glass, for example, the water's volume is the amount of space that it takes up in the glass. So all matter has volume and weight. But it sure doesn't all look the same. Well, that's because matter comes in different forms, or states. Liquids are a state of matter that I'm sure you're familiar with. If you've ever poured yourself a drink while trying to watch TV, you might have noticed that liquids take up space, because once the space inside your glass is full, right on the carpet. Sorry, Mom. You also know that water has weight if you carry a water bottle. As you drink from it, it gets lighter because you're removing water from it. Solids are matter too, of course, probably the most obvious kind. Rocks are solid, and so is ice, which is just solid water. Soccer balls are solid, iPads, your pet Fluffy, and every single guy in one direction. And just like rocks, all those things have weight and take up space. Now, you know what's weird? Sometimes matter can't be seen or felt. But it's there. Like the air we breathe. Air is an example of gas, the third main state of matter, and I probably know what you're thinking. How do we know air, or any gas really, is there if we can't see it? Well, we can prove it by doing an experiment. Science. Let's start by asking the question, is air matter? Because if it is, it should take up space and have weight, right? To see if air takes up space, look it, I can easily drop an empty balloon into this little box, but a full one won't fit. That's because the air that fills the space inside the balloon is bigger than the space inside the box. Now, does air have weight? Let's try something else. Take 2 empty balloons and tape them to the ends of a meter stick. Then we'll hang the meter stick on a string so that it's perfectly balanced. Now let's see what happens if we blow up just one of the balloons and put it back on our meter stick. Check it out. The end with the full balloon sinks. It weighs more than the empty balloon because the air gives it extra weight. The balloon full of air will always weigh more than the empty one because air is matter and matter has weight and takes up space, whether it's a liquid, a solid, or a gas. So listen, the next time someone tells you that something doesn't matter, you can tell them to their face that technically everything is matter. And tell them Sabrina said so.
Okay, so there's a little introduction to what we're going to be doing next week. So our learning target for today was I can define matter, molecule, and atom. I want you to think of where you think you are on this target. On Thursday, you'll have an activity where you're going to show me where you are on this target. So you're going to be assessed on whether you got the target or whether you're just getting started. All right, as always, have a wonderful Wednesday. If you have any questions, shoot me a message. I'm on my computer all day, so I'm here if you need anything. All right, have a great Wednesday.